People often imagine brainwashing as a fast, dramatic switch. But the real method is slow, intentional, and built on a deep understanding of human psychology. It begins with a deliberate attack on the subject's essence of reality. Every person depends on external cues to stay grounded. Some cues come from family, some from routines, and some from a simple sense of place in the world. When those cues disappear, the mind begins to search for something to hold on to. That search makes the person vulnerable to the one source of information left, the captor. Shock and isolation create that first opening. The subject is pulled out of their normal world without warning. They lose access to their schedule, their support network, their sense of control, and the predictable details that give structure to daily life. The captor uses this moment to create disorientation. The subject's brain tries to make sense of a sudden change that has no explanation. In this state, fear becomes easy to exploit because fear lowers cognitive resistance and weakens rational judgment. Imagine someone waking up in a room with blank walls, no windows, and no familiar objects. They do not know the time. They do not know how long they have been there. The silence feels unnatural. The subject starts to lose the ability to compare this new situation with their existing worldview. This vacuum is intentional. The captor wants the subject to feel detached from their old life so the next stages can reshape the person step by step. The psychological strip down continues through physical deprivation. The captor limits food, water, sleep, or basic comfort to weaken the subject's internal stability. This deprivation is not only physical, it also targets identity. The captor may take away the subject's clothes and replace them with generic garments. They may confiscate personal belongings, remove jewelry, cut hair, or enforce new rules on posture, speech, or movement. The captor then uses humiliation to intensify this loss of self. Humiliation works because it forces the subject to view themselves through the captor's eyes. Constant surveillance strengthens this effect. When the captor watches every movement, the subject loses the privacy needed to process thoughts freely. The human mind needs private space to reflect and resist. Analytically, you can understand this stage by looking at how the human brain reacts to social isolation. Studies show that isolation triggers the same neural pathways as physical pain. Brainwashing exploits this need by cutting the subject off from everyone but the captor. The captor becomes the only available source of connection. Even if the captor is cruel, the mind still seeks attachment because the alternative, total social emptiness, feels dangerous. Over time, the subject starts to alter their behavior to gain access to small rewards or to avoid punishment. This creates a conditioning loop. The subject learns that compliance brings relief while resistance brings suffering. Shock and strip down do not erase the subject's identity by themselves. They prepare the ground for the next stages. They create emptiness. In a normal environment, the mind draws strength from personal history, relationships, and internal beliefs. The captor then begins to redefine truth by controlling information. They may repeat certain messages over and over until the subject internalizes them. At first, the subject resists, but resistance becomes weaker as physical and psychological exhaustion grow. Once the subject reaches a point where they prefer the captor's version of reality over the confusion of their own thoughts, the captor achieves control. Brainwashing in political prisons, extremist organizations, and coercive groups follows the same pattern. The method works because it exploits universal cognitive mechanisms, not because the subject is weak or gullible. Through an analytical lens, the power of this first stage comes from the fact that the human brain needs structure. When structure collapses, the brain seeks a new one. Each part of the process, shock, isolation, deprivation, humiliation, surveillance, attacks a different layer of the subject's defenses. Together, they create the environment needed to rewrite the mind.